Hello.
Lynn Caston.
Yeah, it's me. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Welcome to the program, Lynn.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, I've been reading your book, The Alien World Order. Man, you have done some research and really put this together, Lynn. And of course, you've got some other books there. We can talk about those later. I got some screen captures of your book so people can see what at least the cover of it is, and then we can talk about where they can get those books. But before we get going, Lynn, why don't you introduce yourself to the Edge television audience about who you are and what got you interested in the research, especially concerning a sinister plan of the reptilians to divide and conquer the human race.
Well, those conclusions came on slowly. I started out with just interest in extraterrestrials in general, and my first book, The Secret History of Extraterrestrials, was a combination of many articles that I had written for Atlantis Rising magazine over a period of 14 years, and we put it together into one book. That was the introduction to the subject matter, basically. Mm-hmm. And then 3 years later, I wrote Secret Journey to Planet Serpo, mm-hmm. which is also still out there and getting a lot of interest. Mm-hmm. And the more research I did, the more I started to realize the whole reptilian story and what we were involved in here. Mm-hmm. And when I put all that together, connected the dots, it all made sense to me anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say you're not the only one. That seems to be a rising component of people's awareness of what's going on out there. I continue to get updates from various sources saying that, they expect disclosure. Of course, they've been saying disclosure for a while, but I don't know that, disclosure seems like more or less just informational type of thing. But and even if there was a full all-out disclosure, that doesn't seem like that's in any way going to prevent what you speculate could happen with the reptilian race.
Oh, we're getting sabotaged here by the reptilians, I think.
Well, I'd say that. And let me ask you about that. When you're talking about reptilians, I've always heard that they're sort of the nastier ones, whereas maybe the grays are a little bit nicer. Have you ever heard of a distinction between the two?
The grays are really a hybrid race created by the reptilians. Mm-hmm. They do all the dirty work. They do the thing. They're little bellhops. They run around abducting people and doing what needs to be done, mm-hmm. so that the reptilians do not have to do anything in this particular dimension, because the reptilians are more at home in the fourth dimension. Mm. And when they have to manifest here in the third dimension, it takes a lot of energy. So the Greys and the Illuminati do their work for them.
Lynn, you said in your opening there that you slowly came to an awareness that they exist. But was there ever a defining moment or defining fact that you say, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm really going to accept this because the evidence is overwhelming. Was there ever a moment like that?
Well, if we go back to my first book, in the introduction to that book, I made the point that we appear to be basically a slave race. It was always obvious to me that we were all being kept in a sort of enslavement, mostly through debt. Debt is the best form of enslavement, and they had a blanket of suppression over the human race. I realized that way back, but I couldn't put it all together until I started reading more of David Icke's material. And then I realized what was going on here, and it all just fell together when I came up with Robert Morningsky's work, because Morningsky is the only one that has a complete history of the reptilians in this galaxy. And without that history, it's very hard to put it all together. So that's why I started the book out with the first 4 chapters strictly about where the reptilians came from, how they came here, their brutal tactics, and the situation that we're in, which is basically still a state of enslavement on this planet.
Mm-hmm. Area 51's there's been a lot of movies about that, innumerable books. Do you agree that there is an alien base there at Area 51?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they put it in that particular location.
Do you think in any way that it has underground subterranean railways connected it to Dulce or the airport at Denver?
Not only Dulce and the Denver airport, but also Los Alamos, Page, Arizona, goes all over, crisscrosses the United States.
Lynn, do you think that when we pick up our cell phones, the tech in there is so amazing. It's mind-boggling. It'd be easy to say that humans couldn't have arrived with that tech, but maybe they could. But was at some point our tech accelerated in that particular field so that everyone, including maybe the advent of the personal computer, so that with that device they could instantly have access to virtually the entire world population?
Absolutely, and that really is a precursor to things to come when they'll put that thing in a chip and inject it into everyone's body. That's the ultimate goal is for the insertion of the chip.
Were you ever worried, Lynn, that when you say you wrote, and at least the 3 books that I saw from your website, and I have your Alien World Order book cover in our background right now, did you ever worry about your credibility when you started to write things like this, where people say, "Oh, it's just a fun book about aliens," but obviously it's not a fun book about aliens. It's this particular book is saying that there is going to be an invasion of sorts, or a rollout of their sinister plan to divide the human race and to conquer it. I mean, how do you deal with the naysayers and those that just speculate that it's just another alien book?
Well, when you say just another alien book, what are you really referring to? I mean, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there are a number of books out there written about aliens. Roswell. There's a lot of books about that. What I'm asking is, did you ever deal with your credibility? Obviously, you put your credibility on the line when you write a book that says you have evidence that there is a plan by an alien race called the Reptilians to divide and conquer the human race. That's a pretty bold statement there. Did your credibility ever come into question from that? I'm saying.
Well, I don't worry about it because I just put the facts together, and when I get the real feeling that I have truth, I've come to truth. It's sort of an intuitive feeling, really, but more than that, it's really connecting dots that I have been accumulating for a long time. And putting it all together. And then, all of a sudden it becomes clear. And then people like David Icke and James Bartley and Branton and people like that who have also come to the same conclusion, and Alex Collier, that can't be an accident. It can't be an accident. But, basically I go on when it all clicks, when it all just clicks, after the research just falls together into a pattern that becomes very clear, and that all the circumstances bear it out.
Do you think the Reptilians had anything to do with the building of the pyramids?
No, I don't think so. I think that the building of the pyramids had to do with the refugees from Atlantis. The technology in the Great Pyramid is Atlantean. It's Atlantean technology, and the one person responsible for the design of the Great Pyramid was somebody they call Thoth, Thoth, and there are many representations of Thoth in Egyptian art and decoration, with the ibis head and a head of a baboon, etc. But he was a brilliant architect, really.
Whoa! He had the head of a baboon?
Certain representations of him show him with a baboon head, others with the head of an ibis, but he was basically a human. He was an Atlantean human. Now, the Atlantean humans were not the same as the humans we now know as the human race. They were a different human race. I made that point in my book. That the Atlantean humans really originated in the star system Lyra.
Where did the Atlanteans go when Atlantis sunk?
They scattered to all over the globe. Really, they began leaving Atlantis way before the actual sinking. Large numbers of them went to Central and South America, and others went to Egypt and Samaria, and to areas bordering the Atlantic, because Atlantis was really right smack in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And so that's why the architecture in ancient Greece and in the ancient Mayan architecture is so similar, because they were built by the same refugees from Atlantis.
Here's a question for you. So this is from I Believe out of our live chat. It says, what do EBE ships use for power?
The Bob Lazar, who worked at Area 51 for a while, discovered that they were using antimatter energy. But I think it's a combination of both anti-gravity and antimatter. I think for the long-haul trips, such as the ones from Zeta Reticuli, which I wrote about in my second book, they use antimatter for the most part. Mm-hmm. But they also travel through wormholes. Mm. And wormholes are the speed through a wormhole is instantaneous.
Mm-hmm. I saw a video on a underground base in Mountain View, Arkansas. Have you ever heard of it?
Well, there are underground bases all over the United States. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't surprise me. In fact, that may be why all the drugs were flown into Arkansas originally by the CIA.
Or you mean in Bill Clinton's personal plane? Were you going there with that?
Well, whatever they use, I don't know, but they were coming into the airport in Arkansas, in Mena, Arkansas.
Yeah. And what did the CIA use that drug money for?
They used the drug money to finance various scientific and technological developments, mm-hmm. which they kept secret, of course. Things like anti-gravity, which they have and had for a long time. Mm-hmm. Biotechnology developments, cloning humans, mm-hmm. things that we would now consider fantastic. They were doing maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago.
And I noticed there's some human hybridization going on by the reptilians, maybe other species as well. But why is it their tech requires, even to this day, humans? I mean, I believe there was an agreement with the previous president, maybe to swap humans, to let them abduct humans for their experiments. But why would such an advanced technological race need to do something as bioengineering? Why couldn't they do that on their ships or on their own planet?
Okay, the reptilian strategy and the reptilian plan on this planet has to do with cultivating the human race, just like a farmer cultivates a farm. They use us for energy. They use us as food. They use us. They thrive on our fear, which they generate. They live on that. They live on those fearful energies, which they have managed to inculcate into the human race mm-hmm. by creating one war after another, and one danger after another. Now it's terrorism. Before that, it was Vietnam. But they always managed to keep those balls in the air, to keep us in a state of fear and anxiety, mm-hmm. and they thrive on that.
Okay, so are you saying that if a person has an inordinate amount of fear, that they may be been subjected to antagonism by the reptilians?
I would say that if they've had experiences at night in dreams that was fearful, that made them fearful and scared them, then I would say that there was some reptilian influence in the dreamscape, which we now know they are very expert at. Mm-hmm. In fact, that's really how they program people, is through the dreamscape.
Really? Yeah. Have you been programmed?
I hope not. I don't think so. I don't feel like I have.
Okay. Well, good to know there. All right, we have this question from our live chat. Mandy Thompson wants to know, do you believe that reptilians are able to be in our dimension and, wait a minute, how's this go here? To view able in our dimension, eye viewing range?
Yeah, they can manifest in the 3D realm. Sure, they have that ability. Mm-hmm. They can also shapeshift and appear human. And when they do that, they're much more. It's much more a friendly approach on their part. But they prefer to remain in the lower astral realm. That's really where they're at home. Mm-hmm.
There are a number of pictures on the internet of freeze shots of from George Bush to Hillary Clinton to various people, Beyonce for that matter, that their eyes seem to have like a slit in them, and they say that those are captured moments of reptilian shape shifting. Do you agree that this is going on? Or these people are shape shifting reptilians?
Well, David Icke first focused attention on this phenomenon, and that it does exist. Now, whether it exists among the Queen of England, George Bush Sr., others, I don't know. Some of those videos are very convincing, and I do know the shape-shifting does go on, and it goes on mainly through their puppets, the Illuminati, who run the globe, run the planet.
We had a guest on last week, and part of the conversation was about something known out in the internet realm as Pizzagate. But by and large, the thesis is that beyond that theory, that there is a huge amount of pedophilia out there and child abductions. Are the aliens in any way responsible for the abduction of children?
Yeah, did you read the introduction to my book? Did you get around to doing that?
Yes, I did do that, and I also really like the part 2, and that's kind of where I want to start when we get deep into your book. But go ahead and delineate what you were going to say there, because I read it, but I want you to talk about it.
Well, I made the point that H.G. Wells wrote a book called The Time Machine back in 1895, wherein the human race on the planet seemed to be living in a pleasure dome, a pleasure-filled world of leisure and fun. But then every once in a while, batch consignments would be taken underground, and then they would become food for another race called the Morlocks, who ate the humans. And H.G. Wells was prophetic in many ways. He didn't just make this story up. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's exactly what's happening right now. People are disappearing from all over the globe. Nobody knows what happens to them, particularly on state parks, national parks, and the people who investigate them, such as Paulides, they're given the cold shoulder by the park personnel.
Is he the one who wrote the book 401? I think it was
411.
411. Yeah,
missing 411.
All right. So the aliens, they're eating children. I guess is what it is. But are they molesting children?
Absolutely.
Do aliens have a sexual appetite?
Absolutely.
They do.
They have. Yeah. The child trafficking phenomenon is going on all over the world. Thousands and thousands of children disappear. Nobody knows what happens to them. Mm-hmm. And we already know from David Icke and from other writers that the reptilians do eat human flesh, and they prefer children because children are unpolluted. They haven't poisoned their bodies yet with poisoned air, poisoned food, poisoned water. And so they prefer the children for that reason. Mm-hmm. In terms of pedophilia, that's now coming to the attention of people all over the world, and we now know that trafficking has been going on for a long time, mm-hmm. and the trafficking is mainly carried out by the Illuminati, who are in positions of power. The Illuminati run the banks, they run the media, they run the military, they run Hollywood. So they're in a position to recruit and bring in the children, and they are indeed being molested by both the Illuminati and the reptilians.
Somebody put in our live chat, Dreamwalker put in a Bible scripture, Micah 3:3. It says, who also eat the flesh of my people and flay their skin from off of them. They break their bones, chop them into pieces as for a pot and as flesh within the cauldron. That was obviously more than 2,000 years old. So that says right there that it was being documented that somebody was in the business of eating people. Cannibalism has long been a tradition of the human race amongst itself. But you're saying that the reptilians bring this to a whole new level.
I don't think the human race was cannibalistic at any point in time. I think it was all basically through reptilian influence. And, the reptilians are noted for cannibalism, and also all the myths about vampires, all of that, and hell, all of that is connected to the reptilian influence and the reptilian control of the dreamscape.
No, wait a minute. Now, when the conquistadors went to Mexico, they found the Aztecs were ripping the hearts out of their enemies and eating them because they believed that they would consume their knowledge. Is that not cannibalism?
Well, eating the hearts out because they believed they were going to gain something in return is one thing. Eating humans because they required them for nourishment is a whole different idea. I mean, the Mayans were very superstitious, and they believed that their gods wanted them to rip the hearts out and offer them to them. But that to me smacks definitely of reptilian influence. But they were humans. The Mayans were humans. But they were controlled, I think, at that stage by the reptilians.
Part of the Skull and Bones initiation tradition, of which George Bush and John Kerry were members of, and probably still are, is to drink blood out of Geronimo's skull. I'm wondering if they believe that or that initiation rite is based on reptilian rites as well.
I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, I think they know a lot. They do know a lot about the reptilians, but I don't know if they have that direct knowledge actually.
In general, do the reptilians fear man?
Yes, they do. They are afraid of us, and the reason they're afraid of us is because they know that we have the ability to reach into the higher dimensions that they do not, and that's why they keep us dumbed down and in state of fascination with a lot of distractions and video games, and they try to keep us as dumbed down as we can because as we expand our consciousness, we become basically immune to their influence, and they don't want that. They want to keep us as a slave race, and they have been doing that for thousands of years.
King's daughter out of the live chat asked this question to you, Lynn Caston. Satanists take children for sacrifices as well. How do we know that the aliens are not Satanists?
The whole black magic story is if you read Stuart Sverdlow's book, True Blood, Blue Blood, True Blood, you understand what's going on because the lower astral realm is the realm of black magic. And in the lower astral, which are the first 2 or 3 planes of the astral realm, the reptilians are basically dominate that realm. So what we're calling black magic and witchcraft, all of that comes from, and even what we're calling hell, all comes from the reptilian influence at those levels.
Well, I think it'd be hell if a reptilian abducts a human and starts deep probing. But let me ask you something. You're talking about reptilians having sex with humans. There is the demonic aspect known as the incubus and succubus. That is, the incubus is the male figure that particularly has sex with a woman, a demon, and then the succubus is a female having sex with a man. Would those be more likely to be reptilians?
Yes, they can mask. They can appear to be totally what they're not. They can project an image or shapeshift into making you think that they're a witch or whatever, but they're basically at the bottom of it. It's all about. This isn't to say that the lower astral does not have a lot of demonic or let's just say evil humans as well, and monsters in that realm, but the reptilians, I think, dominate the lower astral.
So to continue on that thought just a little bit further, when an alien has sex with a human, are they able to repopulate that way, get a woman pregnant for the male version of it?
Okay, so that brings up the whole story of the hybrids. If you want to get into that now, I'll be glad to.
Well, let's do it. Why not?
The fact that humans have been abducted now for, by the millions all over the globe since the mid-40s, maybe possibly a little earlier. And the women have been abducted. They have been implanted with the embryo that has reptilian, or if not, we call it now the Greys, but same thing. And then they take the embryo, and in the 3rd month they take it and bring it up underground or on their spaceships. Basically, they're hybrid entities. And so there are millions and millions of hybrids all over the globe now.
Have you met one person?
If you want to read? No, I haven't. If you want to read about this subject, I would highly recommend the book by David Jacobs called Walking Among Us, which came out about 6 months ago.
Yeah,
that's the best book on the subject.
Yeah, I had him on before. It sounds like I need to have him back on the program again.
Yep,
well, what is the percentage of humans that are actually hybrids now?
I've heard numbers of approximately 3%. And if you keep your eyes open, and if you start to get familiar with what they look like, they always have large eyes. You start with that.
Okay.
Very large eyes.
Large eyes.
They're small in stature.
Okay.
They have very attractive faces. Many of them are in Hollywood.
Okay.
And they have the advantage over humans because they have paranormal capabilities that we don't have. Mm-hmm. Because they have the paranormal capabilities of the reptilians and the greys. Mm-hmm. I've gotten to the point now where I can recognize them.
Really?
Particularly the females. And I'm beginning to see them more and more.
Well, we were discussing the males, I guess, copulating with the females, but then do the females do they get pregnant by the males? And I guess is that considered human rape?
Wait a minute. The way the hybrids are produced is in a laboratory.
Okay.
The sperm from the reptilian father is implanted in the egg of the human mother, and after 3 months, and she carries it for 3 months. After the third month, the reptilian spacecraft come down and take the child, and the woman doesn't even realize she was pregnant. So it's really not copulation. It's laboratory stuff. It's all about laboratory stuff.
Okay, it's about the laboratory. All right. And does the percentage of human hybrids vary per country? Is there a country that has more human hybrids than other? I mean, I would almost think that, say, perhaps the United States has like 50% because they voted Democrat, but maybe not. I'm just saying, is there a variance between countries, or is it spread worldwide?
The information I'm getting is that the last barrier to a complete alien takeover of the planet is the United States. Mm-hmm. And so they are focusing now most of their effort on the United States. And if you look around, you can begin to understand and see what's happening. They're taking over all the basic institutions in this country, and it'll reach the point where the Constitution will become a relic. Mm-hmm. And
now,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say there seems to be one group of people that wants to make or to accelerate the destruction of the Constitution more than another. Couldn't I make the correlation between the hybridization and their political views?
Absolutely, but I think the most important thing to remember is that the Illuminati run this country. Mm-hmm. They run it through the secret organizations like the Masons, the Anthroposophy, Skull and Bones. The top people in America, the wealthiest people in America, are all basically, if they are not themselves Illuminati, they are certainly inspired by the Illuminati. Mm-hmm. So the Illuminati run the show. Mm-hmm. They decide who gets wealthy and who doesn't, and the people they want to control other people, they make them wealthy, they make them influential. Mm-hmm. They've been doing it for a long time.
It has long been said or suggested that the Queen of England is a reptilian. Do you agree with that?
I don't know. I can't. I know David Icke has made a big point of that, and I know that according to him, Diana at one point called them lizzies or lizards. I don't know. I'll have to defer to David Icke because he has the most information on that.
Well, I mean, you did say that you could identify particularly the women version of the human hybrids.
But when they're in shapeshifter mode, I can't tell. I never tell they were not human.
So you have to catch them out of shapeshifting mode?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is there any device that can take down a human hybrid? There's something out there in internet land called Oregon. I don't know if that's true or not, but they say that has an effect on the aliens, particularly the reptilians. They say it causes their scales to pop off. Did you know any device or any weapon that can be used against them?
Well, I think you're talking about Wilhelm Reich, orgone energy.
Yes.
Basically, well, orgone energy does exist, no question about it. And people have used that energy to bust up clouds in the sky and I think it was used in the Montauk experiments.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the reptilians do have mastered that technology, yes. And I think some of our secret organizations have mastered it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably we have, in the military.
Mm-hmm. Are the Greys cloned?
Yeah, they are cloned.
And what are they cloned from?
Each other. They've lost the ability. They've lost the ability to procreate through actual sexual copulation, and now they have to rely on cloning.
Well, that sounds like a pretty dull life for them. I wonder, do they have orgasms?
I don't know. That's a question. I don't know. I doubt it. I would doubt it. But
all the pictures I've seen, they don't seem like they're smiling a lot. So I'm thinking they really ain't had any. But I don't know. All right, let's get on to this question here. How do you? This is from I Believe out of the live chat. How do you get to be an Illuminati person?
The way it's been explained to me is that if you have at least 40 to 45% reptilian blood, then you are subject. You are basically subjected to the possibility of becoming an Illuminati. And that when you reach the 45% level, that would allow you to shapeshift. Mm-hmm. Anything less than that, you would not be able to. And the reason they call them blue bloods is because they have a much higher percentage of copper in their blood.
Really?
Yeah. And so it appears blue. And of course, we know that all the royalty of Europe have basically been blue bloods. That's why they intermarried. That's why they always intermarry. They keep the bloodline intact that way.
Man, they is an incestuous bunch. All right, man. If they're not molesting kids, they're doing some incest. I mean, these guys are all over the map. Sounds to me like they need an exorcism, Lynn. Let's get this question here from King's Daughter again out of the live chat, and I think you may have already answered the question, but she wants to know who really runs this world.
I think we've already answered that. They run it without question. They've kept the human race enslaved through debt. Half the human race lives in poverty already at this point. Or lives from check to check. Most people are not living what I would call fulfilled lives. We basically are in a state of enslavement. And so all the work that people do from 9 to 5, all of that work results in energy for them.
So, I meant to use that one country guy that's always cracking jokes, you might be a redneck. Could I say that then and kind of correlating to this topic, that if you're poor, you might be a reptilian?
No. Well, no, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true.
Or
I wouldn't draw that connection. No.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, if
you're poor, then you definitely are being controlled by the reptilians.
Uh-huh. Okay. Are the reptilians and the Nephilim related?
Well, some people think they are. Sasha Lessin has discussed that in several of his books, and I think that they're very definitely worth reading. That's Lessin, Sasha Lessin. He talked about the Anunnaki, and if you're talking about Sitchin's books, is that what you're discussing here now?
Zachariah Sitchin? No, this is just a question because we get questions. The questions are coming into the show. I'm just relaying them to you.
Okay, just repeat that question once more, if you don't mind.
Okay. It just got removed out of my list here.
Oh, okay.
I know what it was. Are the reptilians and the Nephilim related?
The Nephilim, the translation of the word Nephilim is those who came to earth from heaven. So using that translation, it would seem possibly that they would be, yes. Mm-hmm. And they were, and the reptilians are rather tall. They're up to 9 feet tall, so they're not exactly of great stature. I know the Nephilim was supposed to be very large, gigantic in stature. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if the reptilians qualify. They're not that gigantic. I think the Nephilim were a combination of fallen angels and humans.
Mm-hmm. When the incubus / reptilian / rapist rapes a woman and she has a baby, is this where the black-eyed children are created?
What are the black-eyed children? I'm not sure I know that.
Oh, you never heard that term?
No.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you what, Google that after the show. I think you might want to write a book about that one. It basically, I guess, it's not like Children of the Corn. It's more like Children of the Space rapists. But I guess people have said they actually show up at their door. They just like they have black eyes. They just kind of stare at you. And I don't even know what the interaction is, but that's been out there for a while. So we'll move on from there. In fact, listen, Lynn, we're getting close to the top of the hour. At 9:00, we take our break. So let's take one more question before we talk about your book and where you can get it from. There is, you mentioned earlier about the Atlanteans perhaps having the head of a monkey. In the pyramids, there are a lot of hieroglyphics that have humans with like bird heads and cat heads. And then if you go back to Greek lore, you have the man goat, the centaurs and things like that. Did these creatures really exist?
Well, some of that is just to express an idea. In other words, by putting the head of a baboon on a human frame, it might suggest that perhaps this particular person had the characteristics of a baboon. But more than likely, there was a lot of crossbreeding going on Atlantis. Yes, mm-hmm. They had mastered that biotechnology. But I think a lot of what you see on the inscriptions in the pyramids and in Egypt was to express a concept, an idea, rather than an actual entity.
Mm-hmm. I saw a video that went vertical in YouTube about there's a gorilla somewhere that has been watching in a zoo that has been watching humans so much so that he is walking now on his hind legs. And I'll tell you what, I don't want no damn ape rising up against the humans. But, it could be Planet of the Apes is coming, and it could be just a replay.
Is that the same gorilla that's learned how to communicate with the human? I think that's the same one that she taught how to almost speak, mm-hmm. to convey thoughts and ideas.
Well, I don't know about that, but this damn ape is walking on his hind leg. It's scary as crap. Listen, Lynn, we've right at the top of the hour. We take a 5-minute break here. I've got your book in my hand and in my background called Alien World Order, The Reptilian Plan to Divide and Conquer the Human Race. Where can people get that and your other books, Lynn?
The books can all be gotten on Amazon. Just go into Amazon and do a search on my book or my name. And also in Barnes & Noble bookstores, Barnes & Noble website, and a lot of other bookstores all over the country, all over the world, really.
Okay. All right. We're going to turn you down, and we'll keep you on the line, and we'll be back with you in 5 minutes, Lynn.
Okay, thanks.
All right, everybody, you're watching and/or listening to the Edge Television broadcast. If you missed any of the exciting first hour, it will begin replay on our main player directly after the show. We'll upload it in our YouTube channel and put it into our TuneIn Radio playlist. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll be right back. Empire. Where in the book of Genesis do we first find activity of the reptilians?
Well, let's go back and let me discuss a little bit of background here, because people are going to wonder, your listeners are going to wonder, why are they here? Where did they come from? Why are they bothering us?
Yeah.
Right?
Good to know.
There's a lot, and why are they eating us? Okay.
Very good to know. And why are they raping us?
Questions. Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Right. They were here first. We have to get that across. The reptilians really consider this their planet, and they were here first. They were here before any humans touched down here. We're talking about, according to Stuart Sverdlow, about 1 million years ago. They settled on the continent of Lemuria, mm-hmm. in the mid-Pacific. There were no humans on the planet at that time, and they had it all to themselves for about 200,000 to 300,000 years. However, what has to be taken into account here is the fact that they had already destroyed human planets all over the galaxy. And so we were basically at war with them throughout the galaxy. And so the Federation, the human Federation in this galaxy, decided they were not going to allow the reptilians to have this particular solar system. So they sent a very fierce race of humans here, called the Atlans, Atlans, to confront the reptilians on this planet. Because what had happened, when the reptilians came here, there were already humans living on Mars and in a planet between Mars and Jupiter called Maldek. And the reptilians destroyed Maldek. They blew it up, essentially, and that became the asteroid belt. And then they stripped the atmosphere off of Mars so that the Martian population had to go underground. So those were the first provocations in this solar system. And so that's why the Federation said we're going to send another race there to planet Earth to confront the reptilians and prevent them from taking over this planet, which is a very desirable planet. It's a major planet. It's in a major junction in the solar system. In the galaxy. So they sent a very fierce race of humans called the Atlans here, and they colonized the continent of Atlantis. And that started a whole series of wars between the Atlans and the reptilians. Eventually, the Atlans had very sophisticated weaponry. They had electromagnetic pulse weapons. They were able to actually sink Lemuria.
Wow.
They sank the continent. And when that happened, all the reptilians went underground. And they created an underground empire because they were very good at that. They're very adept at that. They've done that in many star systems. They already controlled 21 other star systems in this galaxy. So they went underground, and the Atlans had the surface world all to themselves at that point. And that's how Atlantis was born. That race of humans settled Atlantis, and for 50,000 years ago, they created a golden civilization on Atlantis, which was in the Atlantic Ocean. And the reptilians were underground, and they continued the battles. There were battles going on between the surface world and the underworld and the underground world. And they stayed underground, however, because they knew that if they appeared on the surface, that they would immediately be recognized. So they slowly began to what they usually do, which is hybridize the human populations by creating hybrids. And the hybrids slowly took over Atlantis. And ultimately, they sank Atlantis. Atlantis went down about 10 or 11,000 BC. But the Atlanteans had already spread to various other points on the globe, to Central America, South America, to Egypt, to Greece, and all over the Mediterranean. So now we had a situation where we had a human population on the surface and the reptilians underground. And once again, the reptilians made a decision they were going to take over the planet that they claimed they owned, and they were going to take back the surface world. And that's basically the situation. That's where we are today. The struggle continues between the surface human population and the underground reptilian population. So I just wanted to cover that briefly, so that because people would be asking, well, why are they here? Why don't they like us as humans? Why are they hybridizing? Why are they eating humans? This is the background. This is the history, and I covered that in the first 8 chapters of my book.
They never eat dead people, do they?
They might. Why wouldn't they?
They like them live.
I think both ways. That's why they create so many battlefields with so many dead people on them.
Wow. So do they cut them up, smash them up, and put them in a stew?
I don't know. Did you see that movie Soylent Green with way back in the 50s? Was it?
Yeah.
Where they were chopping people up, making them into wafers?
Yeah. Certainly.
Might be something like that. I think they just eat them raw, frankly.
I'm wondering if they have a particular affinity for what type of human they want to eat. I mean, like say a Caucasian or an Asian or an African American. Do they have a particular flavor that they like to enjoy?
I don't know that. I do know that they prefer children. They prefer them from the ages of 3 to 10
because the meat is so tender. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean,
they're not polluted with poisons.
I mean, there's a whole there's a whole bunch of people I'd like to see them go ahead and start eating. They all reside in the Middle East. I wish they start eating them because there's a bunch of them, and they're just kind of going all around the planet causing mayhem. So maybe if they start eating them, that'd be great. Because most people, Lynn, when you're talking about children, that's like it's just like you don't do that. You don't do that to kids. I mean, that makes the old cowboy angry. I'm going to get my gun and I'm going to find me a reptilian and blast him right in the face. But he knows that, okay, that your reptilian eating these kids knows that. So he's not going to show himself to me, is he?
Absolutely not. No. They're much too smart for that.
Mm-hmm. But he probably would show himself to a sissy boy like Lindsey Graham or somebody like that, wouldn't he? Or Elton John or somebody. All right, let's get to another question. Hey, this is from Canada, Lynn. He says, you're a great guest, Lynn. I appreciate you being on the Edge television broadcast tonight. Are there any big alien centers in Canada, or do they prefer warmer climates and places of power?
They prefer to stay underground, and they prefer to stay in the fourth dimension. They don't like, it takes too much energy to manifest as a third dimensional entity.
Well, they got an energy shortage up there, or what?
Well, exactly. They don't want to expend that energy to shapeshift. They don't have to. Mm-hmm. So that's why they have the Greys do their work for them. They have the Illuminati do their work for them in the third dimension. And so really, that's why they basically allow the Illuminati to have so much control over us. Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds to me they're more like parasites, getting everybody else to do their dirty deeds, like kind of like AC/DC, dirty deeds, and they're done dirt cheap. So they're probably playing their rock music up there. Whoa! Wow, that was somebody hacked into our system. All right, let's get to a question here. This is from Doug White. It says, my phone heard what I said and answered me. All right, how realistic is Stargate SG-1?
I haven't differentiated between the different Stargates. I did like the movie. The movie was an excellent movie, and I think that a lot of Hollywood movies do incorporate a lot of esoteric knowledge, especially the sci-fi movies. And I made the point in my book that George Lucas and Roddenberry, Gene Roddenberry, both of them had experiences with extraterrestrials.
Well, get back to my phone there answering. I have an Android, and I had to say, okay, Google, and I did not say that. So I'm wondering if the reptilians have access to my device. And isn't it a fact that it just recently came out that the NSA is watching us through our smart TVs and our phone? Are these video and audio feeds going directly to the reptilian mothership?
Well, we don't have to talk about motherships anymore. They really control the underground world. They have a huge underground empire, particularly under the Indian subcontinent between Tibet and India. So they can leave and come out in spaceships whenever they choose, and they can travel to distant star systems whenever they choose. Mm-hmm. But they basically stay underground in this planet.
They like it cool and dark down there. Do they have lights down there?
They have technology that is so far beyond ours you wouldn't even believe it. Mm-hmm. They're maybe 500 years ahead of us.
Mm. Well, see, that's the quandary that I have, Len. I mean, if they've got this advanced technology, why do they need to keep abducting humans?
They basically are using us as a slave race at this point. All the energy that we produce, they sop it up. Particularly, they want our fearful energy, which they really enjoy. And basically, I don't know, did you get to the last chapter in my book?
No, I haven't got there. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm really enjoying the pictures, though, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there's some good pictures. The publisher's done a good job with those. Mm-hmm. Basically, if you read that last chapter, then you know what their plan is. Their plan is basically now to depopulate the planet, the surface world, down to about 500 million people through disease, viruses, war, all of that. And also, while at the same time they're creating an artificial race with artificial intelligence. When the artificial race, the robotic race, reaches a point of equality with the human, they call that the singularity.
Right.
And when that happens, then we're basically vulnerable to being taken over by the robots. I don't know if you saw the movie Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Did you see
Oh, yeah.
You saw Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So if you remember Blade Runner, the only way they could to differentiate a human from a robot was a certain eye test, very sophisticated eye test that would tell them they were dealing with a non-human. Well, Philip K. Dick, who wrote that, had a lot of esoteric knowledge, and I think basically that is the situation that we're going to find ourselves in. As the robotics get more and more sophisticated, as the hybrids start to repopulate the whole planet, and as the human race gets killed off, at that point, they will simply take over the planet. And it'll be very easy. It'll be very easy at that point. And then at that point, they will run the planet.
Hey, let me check something here. Okay, Google, are the reptilians watching the Edge television broadcast? Okay. See, now it's not one answer, is it? Let me try it again. Okay, Google, are there reptilians out there?
I can do a search for that.
Okay, well, do a search for that. What do you got on it? Okay, well, obviously my phone's working right, so that had to be a reptilian hack-in earlier. All right, now this is kind of off the grid here, but Old Hillbilly in the live chat wanted to know: are the reptilian women hot?
They say, and I made that point in I think the second chapter of my book, that many extraterrestrials consider them to be the most attractive females in the galaxy. Believe it or not.
I know that the Japanese are trying to create a race of sex robots, and I'm wondering, wouldn't that be the perfect organism or device, I should say, that the reptilians could take over and literally impregnate anybody they wanted to under the guise of being a robot?
Well, that's always a possibility. I think robotics and artificial intelligence, in those areas, they're way ahead of us. They're way ahead of us in genetic engineering. They're way ahead of us in anti-gravity. They're way ahead of us in superluminal travel throughout the stars, throughout the galaxy. So we've got a lot of catching up to do, and we can't catch up as long as they keep us in ignorance, which they do. They keep us in ignorance at the university level.
Oh, no doubt.
Yes, all over.
Definitely at the university level, man.
At the scientific level, and in the media, they keep us dumbed down. But they have tremendous technology. Tremendous.
So you're saying the reptilians actually are the ones that created the snowflakes?
What do you mean, snowflakes?
Oh, well, that's a new word for the people or the kids in colleges, because anytime they see Donald Trump or they hear about the Constitution or anything, they go run into a room and they play with Play-Doh or they play with themselves. I don't know which. Chuck in Florida wants to know, do you believe then that there is a hollow Earth based on the reptilians going inside the Earth?
From what I understand, it's not exactly a hollow Earth. And Linda Moulton Howe explained this in great detail, and I agree with her. And Stuart Sverdlow has made that point too. It's not the inner Earth; it's at the crust. The crust is probably a couple of 100 miles thick at various points, and it's hollowed out into caverns. Tremendous cavernous and open areas in the crust itself. That's where they inhabit. Some of them, I think, according to one of the guys that wrote on the internet, a guy named Branton, some of their colonies go down around 200 miles.
Wow, unbelievable. And that's the thing I've always said on the program. As far as I know, humans have never been more than 7 miles deep, and only with a 2-inch drill bit. I don't even know how they know that there's a molten core. I mean, they just put it on a computer and say, draw us a world that's supposed to function like this one does. But you said earlier in the first hour, Lynn, that in fact the reptilian bastards are fearful of man. So that tells me at some point humans must have captured a reptilian and maybe even chopped him up. Would they taste more like chicken or alligators?
Well, if it's like everything else that you can get in a Chinese restaurant, I would say chicken.
Okay,
so but they are alligators after all.
Well, why wouldn't you say? I mean, it seemed to me to be like a frog or an alligator. One of the two seems like to me some kind of gator.
I don't think humans find alligator meat to be particularly appealing.
A question came in. It says, "Are they going to land at some point on the White House grounds in an act of diplomacy?"
They don't have to land anywhere. They're underneath the Earth. they can create hybrids anytime they want. Now, one thing I want to explain about the hybrids, okay? We have to ask the question, what kind of souls would inhabit hybrid bodies, would you say?
Demons?
No, they're not. They appear to be very human. As I said, we deal with them every day. We deal with hybrids every day. It's everywhere. They're in all fields of endeavor. But what kind of a soul would you say it would take to inhabit a hybrid body? Because we know that they're very good, they're very adept at paranormal powers. Well, from what's been written about them, a human soul cannot inhabit a hybrid body. There's something about the DNA in the hybrid body that cannot accommodate a human soul.
Wow.
So what that means then is that all the hybrids are basically aliens. Okay? So when the time for the takeover comes about, the hybrids will basically take over the surface world. And we'll be out. We'll be gone. We'll be out.
Wait a minute. Now, where are we going? What's going on here?
They will either send us to another star system, or they'll kill us, or they'll make us into wafers. I don't know. But as the robotic race increases, as the hybrid race increases, and as the human race depopulates, there'll be less and less humans on this planet with spiritual souls, with human souls.
Well, I tell you what, ain't no reptilian going to turn me into no damn cowboy wafer. Okay, for one thing, and if they do, they better charge a lot for people to get some. But are you suggesting there is going to be a mass exodus of a population group?
It's the only chance we have to emerge victorious in this struggle is by raising our consciousness. If we can raise our consciousness to a certain level, then, as I said before, they are already afraid of us because they know we have the ability to reach into the higher dimensions, which we do. We can reach into the fifth and sixth dimension, which they cannot. They dwell in the fourth dimension, and that's why they're afraid of us, because once we get to a higher level, they can no longer control us, and the game is over. The game is over at that point. So that's where we are right now. It's a stalemate. It's basically a stalemate at this point.
So at some point, then, what you're saying is we're actually we're fighting back.
Absolutely. The Federation is helping us to fight back. Yes, the Galactic Federation.
Okay, and how are we fighting back, Len?
Well, as we're growing in consciousness. We're expanding our consciousness. We're taking over various institutions. A lot of the Illuminati are being brought into trials, to trials at The Hague.
Really?
A lot of the Illuminati are being eliminated from positions of power. I would recommend you read anything by Corey Goode, Goode, or by Branton, Branton. Already, we've rounded up a lot of reptilians, and we've shipped them off the planet. Believe it or not.
Wow.
Believe it or not.
Man, it sounds like Trump's illegal immigrant policy is working. Because aren't they the quintessential illegal alien?
Well, I don't think they carry passports, so it could be. I don't know.
So does the United States have a space program that we don't know about, and are they engaged in battles with these guys?
Yes, but the battles are being fought by our friends from the other star systems. We don't have that technology quite yet, although we do have starships. And Gary McKinnon was able to hack into those communications. You know the story of Gary McKinnon?
Refresh my memory. It sounds like I've brushed across that.
He's a British guy who hacked into communications that were being sent to and from human starships, like the Enterprise, basically huge starships that we have, and they were being. He recorded the conversations.
Yeah,
and he said they were like these guys were like Captain Kirk.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, man. This whole thing it just brings a whole new reality when you tell somebody, when you say "eat me," you better watch it, because they in fact could be literally eating you if the reptilians have their way. What is the time frame, Len, of this conquering of the human race?
I don't know the exact time frame, but it's within this century certainly. And my understanding is that by 2050 we'll know the whole story.
Wait a minute now, 2050. I got to figure how old I am and see if I'm going to be around to see that. How did we come up with 2050? Is that just an estimation of their technology and the multiplication of that technology? It works out to 50 years.
How long will it take the human race to raise its consciousness on a global scale? That's the question.
Well,
that's the question. Well, the 100th monkey. Are you familiar with the 100th monkey concept?
What did you say about the monkey concept? What now?
The 100th monkey.
The 100th monkey?
Have you heard that tale, that story? They have monkeys living on 2 or 3 different islands, and eventually one of the groups on one of the islands developed high technology, and it's somehow spread to the other islands without anybody understanding how. Okay, and it just reached everybody, all the other monkeys, and that's what has to happen with the human race. As certain segments of the human race become more and more sophisticated and more high consciousness, it'll spread rapidly throughout the globe. When that happens, we're in a position where we now have global power, and we can really confront the reptilians at that point.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to take them down. I've had it with their crap. Lynn, when you say that they're going to take over and conquer the human race, I mean, were they going to sequester us and put us into FEMA camps? Or are they going to have us digging for copper for them? I mean, what is that?
Well, the first step is depopulation. Reduce the population.
All right, but what about the remainder? I want to get to the conquering part. What is it they're going to have humans do for them?
We're already doing it. We already work for them. That's the truth. That's the situation we're in. When you go to work from 9 to 5 every day, the energy that you put into that job basically benefits the reptilians who control us, because they do.
Yeah.
The question now becomes how we can turn the tables on them. And that can only happen with expanded consciousness. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of literature on that subject, and there's a lot of stuff on YouTube about it. You just got to be aware of some of these things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, again, I'm not going to put up with their crap, but you said they've been doing it a long time. So you're saying we're sort of coming to the fruition of their dirty deeds on this race, on this planet. But how do we know? I mean, did they at some point conquer Mars?
Yeah, they have a very large contingent on Mars right now, but we do too. There are plenty of humans on Mars, and they do erupt into battles there. And if you want to learn more about that, look up Captain Randy Kramer and what he's talked about. Randy Kramer was a so-called super soldier who actually was involved in battles on Mars with the reptilians.
Wow. Well, I don't care what we talk about. We can't talk about the monkeys anymore because I don't know if I can deal with that. Let me go to the live chat here, see what we got going on. Lynn, who in our government would you know for a fact is a reptilian? Who is the highest person you know?
Well, when you say a reptilian, what percentage of their blood are you talking about here?
Well, is that all it is?
I can go into great detail about that.
Okay, so basically, we're only going to get to the hybrid part. They're always going to be sort of a human reptilian hybrid and not an actual reptilian. Because exactly. Is there a difference between a shape-shifting reptilian and a hybrid reptilian?
A shape-shifting reptilian is basically a reptilian who can appear human when he needs to, and but a shape-shifting human can be reptilian or human depending on what he wants, depending on what he sets his mind to do. It's all mental. The whole thing is mental.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so how do we know that the thoughts that we're having are not our own, but have been astrally projected into our brain by the reptilians?
I think almost anybody can differentiate that, can make that differentiation. I mean, most people know which thoughts are theirs, which thoughts are somebody else's, and when they become somebody else's, that's when they're motivated to do things they wouldn't ordinarily do, to kill people, perhaps. That's right there. There's your clue right there. If they're doing something that is way out of the ordinary and not human, and doesn't show any affection for other members of the human race, you know what you're dealing with.
Why do you keep describing Democrats, man? Hey, I went to the. We were trying to get there in your book, and we went to an alien rabbit hole. But I want to know, in the book of Genesis, what is the first documented evidence of reptilian interaction with humans?
Well, you know the story in Genesis of the snake in the Garden of Eden, right?
Okay. Yeah.
We'll start with that.
Okay.
The human race as we know it, that we belong to, Homo sapiens sapiens, was only created about 40,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. The humans that were on Atlantis were not the same humans that we are. They were a different race. Some of them are referred to as pre-Adamic race. Mm-hmm. And they did not have a reptilian brain. We have a reptilian brain because that was the deal that was made with them when we were created. When we were created 40,000 years ago, they insisted that we carry in the new product, newly created human race. That's the story in the Garden of Eden. Partially reptilian DNA. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we have a three-brain structure. And the lowest brain, the one that's connected with survival and with fear, is the reptilian brain. So we have been becoming more and more spiritual, and because we're being helped by our friends in the galaxy, and little by little, hopefully, we're expanding our consciousness to the point where once we reach a certain level, the reptilians will not be able to affect us at all.
You said
that's why they're afraid of us.
Well, they better be afraid. Listen, the evolution of humans, I'm not really seeing that. As I look around the planet right now, Lynn, it seems to be a devolution of human activity, spiraling down into some deep, dark, dank, nasty place. Is there going to be a reversal of that, and we're going to sort of ascend to a higher place? I mean, when's that going to start?
That's the nature of that's the game we're in. I mean, that's exactly right. Why do you think that our consciousness has been lowered? Because they've kept us in a dumbed down, distracted state.
It's been lowered, so we'll vote Democrat. See, you keep going back to that.
Horror movies, violent video games. It's everywhere. And then on top of that, you add in the poisoning of the water, the food, the air. Mm-hmm. All of that, the pesticides and the medications. Add all that in. All of that is connected. Mm-hmm. It's all connected, and its purpose is to keep us in a state of basically a state of slavery.
Are they the ones responsible for chemtrails?
Yeah. It's all part of the.
Okay. Wait a minute. Now, also, this is very enlightening to me because as I'm a beekeeper, and so therefore some of my bees get killed off by Monsanto, GMOs, and pesticides. So from based on what you're saying, can I blame the reptilians for killing my bees?
I would say you can blame the Illuminati. You're not going to be able to blame the reptilians themselves.
Oh,
you can't.
Why? I can blame them.
They're never available for you to reach them. You can't reach them. Phil Schneider. The Phil Schneider story, I assume.
Yeah, with the missing fingers. Was he the only witness to that attack down in the underground base?
No. There was another guy that was with him that threw him into the upward bound basket that saved his life, because they'd fired a weapon at him that basically he was basically unconscious and almost dead, and his friend picked him up and threw him into one of the baskets that was going up, and when he got to the surface, they were able to take care of him. Mm-hmm. But that's what happened with his fingers were missing. I think I don't know how many of his fingers were cut off, but basically he was murdered. He was murdered eventually.
Mm-hmm. Well,
he made the statement before he died. He said, if anyone finds me dead, it's because I was murdered. I will never commit suicide.
Well, and I tell you what, that's too bad. He almost prophesied his own death earlier. Lynn Cassidy, you were talking about the depopulation efforts, and at some point you suggested that there may be a large segment of population coming up missing, whether they're off-worlded or whether they're turned into human briskets to be sautéed and simmered. And then, but there's also another story out there that says that there will be a mass exodus of humans, and the Bible believers believe it's something called the rapture. So is it that the Bible then has predicted that there will be a mass exit, and maybe they don't know that it's really going to be alien abduction, or is it in fact going to be a rapture, so to speak, where God takes people out of the planet so the reptilians can't eat them like they're going to do the rest of the planet?
I don't know about the rapture, but if you just modify that story slightly, we've already started to develop the ability to start expanding and developing colonies on other star systems. So we've already got a colony on Mars. We've already got a small colony on the Moon. We've also got a colony going in Alpha Centauri. Eventually, the way to reduce the human population will be through colonization. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, I mean, you got people like Elon Musk, who has created a space technology company all by himself, basically, the guy that developed the Tesla automobile.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're almost at the point now where we can begin to colonize Mars with large numbers of people. And we have people lined up ready to go. Okay? So that's the way the planet should be depopulated. Not by being killed in wars started by the reptilians and the Illuminati.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's if you modify the story. But if you don't modify the story, then there's going to be a certain amount of people that are going to disappear off the planet. Let's just say, from the biblical point of view, those who have accepted Christ as their Lord and Savior are going to be blasted off the planet. But then another side story for humans to explain it, those who have denied God, they're going to say, hey, the reptilians abducted these people. There is no God, right?
Yeah, I guess that could happen. And as far as the rapture goes, I mean, the whole story of the rapture does tie in with the whole idea of ascension. I don't know if you've had any guests on your show that have discussed the whole ascension idea.
Oh, I'm sure this show's been on since 2004. I'm sure I have.
Well, see, a lot of people think that's what's going to happen. That we're going to slowly reach the point where we can ascend into the fourth dimension ourselves and become fourth dimensional beings. Mm-hmm. And once we're out of the third dimension, then of course there's nobody here to be killed. So that's another possible development.
Well, really, so then there are various scenarios that could happen and play out.
If you believe in the ascension, and I think that there is a lot to it from all the literature that I've read, that as we develop higher consciousness, we will start to ascend into the fourth dimension. That could be considered the rapture. I don't know.
Well, how is it that humans are ascending when you got a whole group of people out there cutting people's heads off, trying to live back 1500? They get their watches. When here in Indiana, when we have Eastern Daylight Savings Time, we set our watches ahead an hour. But if you're in the Middle East, you set your watch back 1,500 years. So, where's this ascension coming from? I mean, these head hackers, they got a long way to go, and they represent, Lynn, a large population of the planet.
Well, look, if you want to match that brutality, go back to World War I. Start with that. You can even go further back and read about the rape of Belgium. What happened when the German army marched through Belgium? It was a lot worse than that. They were impaling babies on bayonets, little children, without any conscience at all. Then if you take World War II with Hitler and Auschwitz and all that, I mean, there's plenty of brutality to go around here. So the ISIS is just the newest incarnation of this brutality. But this brutality is not human brutality. The human race is not brutal. The human race is essentially decent. Mm-hmm. The ones that are brutal are being programmed in their dreamscape by the reptilians. They're being made into basically monsters without a conscience, and that can be done because the reptilians know how to do that. and they control the fourth dimension, and they control the dreamscape.
Well, they seem to be a very violent group. Where did the reptilians come from?
They originated in the star system Draco, which is, as I understand it, is about 300 light years from our star system. That's where they came from. And they originally attacked the first human constellation was Lyra, and when they attacked Lyra, that was the beginning of the confrontation between the reptilians and the humans in this galaxy. And they destroyed 3 planets, and they slaughtered 50 million
Wow.
people.
I don't really like the Dracos.
Right, and some of them are. I mean, well, look, it's not that they're evil in the way that we understand evil. Okay,
It's not.
it's just that that's who they are. They only know how to dominate. They only know how to rule and how to turn people into slaves or subjects. Okay, there's no heart chakra in the reptilian body. They don't have any affection for anything or anybody. They just know how to rule. That's the nature of the beast.
I don't know about no chakra. I mean, it sounds like maybe they're like the Kundalini, just really. But the word Draco, I always, you almost want to finish that and say dragons, and there's a lot of lore out there that dragons did exist. Is that where that lore comes from?
How about the term draconic?
Or draconian?
Draconian laws, draconian ideas. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, and it also the devil's also known as that great dragon. So that could be the main Draco right there. Here's a question Lynn cast in from our moderator Jade. She wants to know why haven't the reptilians destroyed us yet? Why don't they just get it over?
I covered that. They're using us as they would a farm. They thrive on our energy. They have us working for them. They have us producing goods for them. They use us for food. Originally they actually ate the dinosaurs, but thanks to the Atlanteans wiped out the dinosaurs. That left them without a food source. That's when they started turning to start eating us.
They got tired of the dinosaur meat?
The Atlanteans basically wiped out the dinosaurs. They had the weaponry, they had the technology to do it.
Wow. This is a question that came in from our live chat from Flatfoot. Do you believe Jesus was reptilian?
Certainly not. Jesus was, my belief is, which I put in the book, he was sent here for the exact opposite purpose, was to get the human race, which had just been created about 40,000 years previously, to get them on the right path, which is service to others, love, and he even said it in one sentence: love thy neighbor as thyself. It was the exact opposite of everything the reptilians were trying to do, and that's why he was sent here. That's my belief.
Okay, so you have your belief there. So what do you think about the Jesus salvation message?
What do you mean?
That it's written in the Bible that it says that you need to accept Jesus as your Lord, as your Savior, as the person you believe in. You don't give him that. You don't give him that. You used to say he was a great statesman, so to speak.
He was an extraterrestrial for sure. His father was an extraterrestrial. I don't know about the salvation story. I'm not sure I believe in it. I think that's more of a Roman Catholic idea, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it?
I don't know. But there does seem to be evil in man's heart that's never been truly dealt with. And we've described a lot of evil things so far in this program. And it sounds to me like man needs somebody to come in there and kind of
the human race is essentially decent. That's my firm belief. And those that are not, those that are brutal, it's because they've been programmed to become brutal, to engage in warfare, to kill other men, to kill other people by the reptilians and by the Illuminati.
Well, so you're saying the humans then stand alone and we don't have anybody out there to help us?
Yes, we do. We have the whole Federation is helping us. The Pleiadians, the Andromedans, the Procyon. We have several star systems, all of whom basically spread throughout the galaxy after the attack on Lyra. There was a human diaspora throughout the galaxy, and that formed what we now call the Human Federation.
Mm-hmm. Are you a member of the Federation, Lynn?
I don't know.
I mean, how does one go about signing up for the Federation?
They'll contact you. Don't worry about it.
Okay. I mean, so people
when you're ready,
when you're beeper or.
I don't know. They may take you up into a spaceship. They may talk to you at night. I don't know. There's all kinds of possibilities.
Look, I got some advice for people. If you get a call from the Reptilians, do not go up there. I mean, come on, Lynn. They're going to be doing all kind of some bad sex things to people. I mean, are they going to just turn to all of a sudden be nice guys or something?
Well, that's the nature of the situation we're in, Dan. Right now we're in a stalemate. There are millions and millions of humans on this planet that are trying to elevate the human race to a much higher level spiritually. Mm-hmm. And the reptilians are trying to do the opposite. Mm. So it's a standoff at the present time, I think.
Okay, so then it is clear then that Jesus wanted to elevate the human race, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So did he fail in his mission, or did he accomplish his mission?
He accomplished it. There are millions and millions of Christians all over the world, and the Christians always create a climate of decency and of a love for your fellow man that probably would not exist if he hadn't come along.
Mm. Well, okay, I would grant you that. That's a truism in that right there. And we've got about 10 minutes left. There's so much in your book. I'm going to give you the time here to direct the sort of where we go, Lynn. What part of your book or would you like to talk about to make sure we get it out on the interview tonight?
I just wanted to point out the fact that I talked about World War I, World War II, the brutality, the horrors that went on. I did that strictly to make sure I could paint a good picture of what the reptilian mind, or if you want to call it the mind, is all about, and how cruel and basically cruel and sadistic they really are. And I wanted that to come out because we have to know what we're up against. If we don't know what we're up against, how can we ever develop the kind of mentality we need to oppose it? Mm-hmm. And that's something I just want to, because some people have pointed out that I talk too much about the cruelties that occurred in World War I and World War II. Yeah. And but I did it for a reason. I did it just to make that point. That's what we're dealing with. That's why I did it.
Hmm. What about the genocides that have taken place too? Do you put the world wars higher than those? Ethnic cleansing and things that humans have done?
On the same level. It's on the same level. It's all cut from the same cloth. Mm-hmm. It's all the same story. And it comes from humans that have been totally made devoid of sympathy for other human beings. And they can do that. They can do that. They can program humans like that.
Well, it sounds like you're just describing somebody who doesn't have God in their heart. But you also, because you just said that if it weren't for the Christians, there would be much more debauchery in the planet, certainly much more evil. They seem to be the only ones that's holding it back.
Well, basically, I think for the most part, there are other groups, many other groups, of course. Many other religions are trying to do the same thing. The Buddhists, of course. I think many of the Muslims are in that category. It's not solely the Christians, but I think the Christian influence has been at the root of the human race slowly getting out of this situation we're in. Hmm. By helping other human beings, we develop our own spirituality and we develop our own consciousness. And the whole thing is about consciousness. That's the whole game.
Mm-hmm. There are those, though, that fight this evil in what's called spiritual warfare. Do you think that when somebody prays against the reptilians, it would have an effect on them?
I don't think that it's necessary to pray against or to oppose. I think it's just necessary to grow. So just do what it takes to grow spiritually. Mm-hmm. That's all it takes. That's the name of the game. If we can do that, then we're out of reach. We're out of touch. They can't touch us anymore.
Question came in, said, Lynn, if you had a choice whether to follow an alien or follow Christ, which one would you choose?
They're one and the same, because I believe Jesus was an alien. So I think he was an extraterrestrial. I think he definitely acted like an extraterrestrial. He was totally unusual for his time. So it's one and the same. It's one and the same.
So when you're saying alien, you're not really saying, say, like a reptilian type of alien. You mean just alien to our planet?
He was part of the human race, and the human race populates the entire galaxy. There are humans all over the galaxy.
Mm-hmm. And how do we know that?
We do know that, and we're learning that slowly but surely as we branch out and we start exploring other solar systems and other galaxies. Certainly, the Andromedans are human. We know that. Mm-hmm. The entities on Procyon are human. We know that. The entities in the Pleiades are human. We know that. Mm-hmm. And even the so-called creators of the human race, which we call the Elohim, they were just a very highly advanced human race.
Who do you think was Jesus' father?
Well, if you read that chapter in my book, I think that there's a book called the Talmud of Emmanuel, which was found in the 50s in Palestine in a cave. That particular book claims it was Gabriel, but that's the name that's given in that particular book. And basically what we call angels are possibly very, very advanced humans. We don't know. We don't know.
Possibly, or in fact, they just might be angels.
Well, what is an angel?
Well, I guess everybody has their description. I would say somebody that's created to help humans out in some way.
So they're not human then?
No, they're not. Definitely not human.
Okay, well then they're
more like spirit beings.
You may want to talk about angelic humans, but you're talking about two different races: an angelic race and a human race.
Well, I think they're more like spirits. I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, does that sound right?
I think they can inhabit human bodies if they choose to.
Some describe them as messengers. They can be messengers to us. I mean, a lot of people have said they've had angelic visitations.
Yeah,
bringing messages.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think so. I think that happens all the time.
Well, I think there's a message for you that you might want to look a little bit more into Jesus, who he actually was. But Lynn, we're right at the end of the program. Anything you'd like to say about your book or how to get it? You go right ahead. Okay,
the book is on Amazon. It's been available for the last 2 weeks. If they want to go to my website, I will also make them available on my website, which is under construction, but it's available.
All right.
It's www.et-secrethistory.net, N-E-T. And I'll have them there too.
Okay. I see our moderator just put that address into the chat box, and also it's up on our website. Lynn Caston, I appreciate you coming on the Edge Television broadcast tonight.
I really enjoyed it, Daniel, very much.
Well, good. I'm glad you did. You've done other interviews, I know, especially on coast and various places. How do you compare this one to those?
This was great. I really enjoyed talking with you, and you've asked all the right questions as far as I'm concerned.
Very good. All right. I appreciate you, Lynn.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Bye. Pleasure. All right, everybody. That was Lynn Caston talking about the alien world order and their reptilian plan to divide and conquer the human race. I'll tell you what, if I see any one of them bastards, it's game on, okay? And for them, it's game over. Game over, man. Game over. That's what they're going to be saying. They're going to be running out the door. Next week, that is our guest there is an open slot. I haven't really filled it yet. I had a lined up guest, had to back out real quick and reschedule. But in 2 weeks, we're going to have Joseph Reyna on the program. And in 3 weeks, John Titor, the time traveler, will be on the Edge television broadcast. This show will begin to replay in the main player directly after the show, where you can watch the entirety of it. If you do not refresh your browser, the show will continue to play right in that position. But if you refresh your browser, say like in a half an hour, then you'll see the YouTube video will be inserted into the player. But the actual entire show really just stays in there as long as you don't refresh your browser. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Well, I appreciate all the great questions that everyone had tonight for the guest. And that's going to be a wrap. That's how we roll. And the row got to go. Daniel Ott for The Edge. Bye-bye.